Hi, this is Les Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. I know we've got a lot of other things on our mind these days, but since this is More Sports and Les Levine, we probably should at least talk a little bit about sports. If you've listened to the President, the Vice President, Governor DeWine, and Mario Cuomo, there's no way that we're going to see professional sports until at least football season. The President took a guess today and said the coronavirus would take at least until July or August to be controlled. That means baseball and the current basketball season are done. On the other hand, politicians have been known to overstate timeframes so they can look good if it's finished earlier. To be honest, I'd rather believe the doctors ahead of the politicians, no matter which side of the aisle they come from. Jim Ingraham is here. More Sports and Les Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les Levine, it's a Monday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les Levine into its 24th year, consecutive year, and it's seen exclusively on cleveland.com. Jim Ingraham is here, and when you left home, nothing much happened with the Cleveland Browns. All of a sudden, they signed everybody in the entire continent.
Yeah, before we start, I have a suggestion, by the way. Since there's no games being played now, I think you should change the name of your show to Less Sports and More Levine.
It's apparently what's going to be happening here. It's not a bad idea.
Yes, the Browns did sign a lot.
The Browns signed a lot. We'll talk about that. Well, I can throw some names out at you. Jack-Conklin gets signed, and Austin Hooper and Case-Keenum. It's a pretty productive day, $104 million out the door.
Well, when you need a lot, you have to sign a lot, and they're off to a flying start. So, yeah, I mean, those were all guys that they needed, filling roles that needed to be filled.
Don't we always feel that way when a trade is made? We all overrate who these guys are?
Not always. I don't think anybody immediately overrated who they got from the Rangers for Corey Kluber, the Indians.
No, that's true.
So it's with the Browns, though, I think you're right. For the most part, whoever they get is definitely somebody they needed and is going to be really impactful in the coming year.
Okay, so we have no games to talk about, but we do have lots to talk about, so we open up the phone lines at 216-575-0403. That's the way it's going to be. We're going to try, as time goes on, until everything gets better and gets taken care of, we'll try to elicit more phone calls from you, 216-575-0403. The NFL players approve a new CBA. What does that mean for the NFL? Let's take a look at what we have. The regular season will increase to 17 games, not this year, but as early as 2021. The playoff field will expand to 14, and that could be as early as this year, assuming we play the season. Player revenue goes up, no surprise there, and it eliminates player suspensions for positive tests of marijuana. You okay with that, Jim?
Sure, why not?
Pass that thing over here, will you, while we're waiting? It seems to make sense. I think they rushed it along, but it's probably what everybody wanted. But 17 games, you in favor of 17 games?
Not really, but what I would be more in favor of is like 2 exhibition games, or even 1. I mean, It's like the fact that they still charge full price for those games is scandalous.
I've been begging for years, charge me more for the real ones and less for the exhibitions, just so I think that I'm not getting played with here.
Yeah, and even now with 3 of them, it's probably still going to be one of those games. Probably the first one, I suppose, it'll be most of the players will be guys that will be playing in the XFL, 6 months later, and not on the NFL team. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Here's the term that I like. Haven't heard it till this year, but it sums up a lot of things. Legal tampering.
Yeah.
It's allowed right now. That's sort of like, what would you say on what the Houston Astros did? Was that legal drum beating? What was that?
That was illegal tub thumping. How about that?
Tub thumping. Isn't that what they used to call the
PR people?
The PR people. They were tub thumpers.
They were tub thumpers, yeah. And ironically, the Astros didn't want to call attention to themselves, but they still beat on a tub or a can.
No question about that. All right, so how does this work? Legal tampering. Let's take a look and find out what we're talking about. It began at noon on the 16th. Teams may speak to agents or free agents to be. The players without an agent may not speak to teams. How do they can't, what if they speak to somebody and said, aha, I'm with the team and you're in trouble now?
Can they listen to teams?
I think they can. Terms of the deal can be agreed to, but no deals are official until March 18th at 4 p.m. I don't get that. Why did you can talk to them, but you can't tell people you talk to them?
This is like vintage NFL, though. They make what should be a one-day thing into a week-long festival of nonsense.
Good point. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. All right, the Browns signed 3 people today. Looks like they need all 3 of them, at least the positions. So we'll take a look at that right now. Browns agreed to a 4-year, $44 million deal with Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper, take a look there at tight end. And 6'4", 254, 25 years old, 4 NFL seasons, all with the Falcons. And he agreed to that 4-year deal, $44 million. 2-time Pro Bowler. He missed 3 games last season due to an MCL sprain. So David Njoku, what do you suppose that means to him? Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, unless they want to use 2 tight ends, which I guess Stefanski did in Minnesota.
Right.
So.
All right, let's take a look at Jack-Conklin, a name that we've heard about for quite some time. 25 years old, played 4 full seasons in the NFL with the Titans, all rookie and all pro in 2016. He spent the majority of his career at right tackle, could play left also. 4 sacks allowed in the 933 snaps. That was in 2019. He agreed to a deal with the Browns, and that is $42 million for 3 years. Then the Browns decided they needed a backup quarterback. Who do they get? A name we've heard also a lot in the last week. That would be Case-Keenum, who goes to the Browns. Case-Keenum, Case-Keenum, let's take a look at what he's done. 32 years old, and they say that he could work well as a mentor. Normally it's tough to get somebody 32 to give up the fact that you're a starting quarterback, but he knows how to take a paycheck. And he went 11-3 with the Vikings under Stefanski. That was back in 2017. He agreed to a 3-year deal worth $18 million. So if you add it up, Browns spent about $104 million today. Pretty good payday.
Yeah, that's a lot of money spent in less than 10 hours probably.
No question about that. All right, the Browns also did some other things involving Kareem-Hunt. We'll talk about that when we get back. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. And got lots of stuff to talk about. So light up the phone lines. Jim Ingraham is here. We'll talk to Mike Masetta a little bit later. Did you know that the Ohio Lottery has paid out over $1 billion in winnings over the last 6 months? People are winning in record numbers, and winning is happening all around the state of Ohio. Play an Ohio Lottery game and play it today. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. We pose the question, you give us a response, and we'll read it to you on that show between 6 and 7 p.m. We'll take a break. We'll come on back with Jim Ingraham. We'll get to your phone calls. Lines are open. 216-575-0403. More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had 2 choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Let's take a look at birthdays. This is March 16th. Rita Book was born in 1947. Did you know her at all?
She was a good tennis player, wasn't she?
Rita Book.
Rita Book, yeah.
Hopefully she bought your book, Mike Hargrove, A Baseball Life.
Very well done.
Thank you. Joe DeLamelure. Nobody knows how to spell that name. How do you look at that and say, yeah, DeLamelure?
But if you misspell it, no one knows.
Right.
So that's good, too.
Ozzie Newsome, born on this date. Blake Griffin, Joel Embiid, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. You know, I'm now getting to the point where I've seen the father, the son, and are we talking about grandfathers now?
Well, the Boones already crossed that
The
line.
Bells did that?
The Bells did, too. Yeah, you're right.
216-575-0403. All right, so the Browns sign Austin Hooper, Jack-Conklin, and Case-Keenum, and at least on paper, as most signings do, so it looks pretty good, or at least covers some areas that the Browns had to take care of. All right, they also placed a second-round tender on Kareem-Hunt. Let's take a look at what Kareem-Hunt has done, and that obviously means the fact that they offered a second-round tender certainly means that the Browns want him, right?
Yeah, or they want a second-round pick if he.
It's hard to believe that somebody would give up a second-round pick for him, plus pay the amount of money that it would cost based on some of the off-the-field situations.
Yeah. The Browns are probably counting on that part of it, and I think they get to match any contract he gets. So they really want him. They can keep him.
So he had 43 carries, good for 179 yards last year, half the season with the Browns, and he caught 37 passes, 287 yards, 1 touchdown, total of 3 touchdowns for the year. He's a guy that can only get better being with the team for a full season.
And with the better offense, the better coach. I thought he was grossly underused last year.
By the Browns.
Yeah. I mean, he's a terrific player. I mean, he can block. He never fumbles. He's tough. He can gain yards on the ground. You can throw him passes. So he's an all around solid.
Do you think
back.
they underused him because he couldn't join the team till halfway through the season?
No, I mean once he did join the team, I thought he was still underused. I mean they would go like a whole possession sometimes with him only getting on the field like once or twice.
In an ideal world, concerning the Browns, you got Beckham and you got Landry, and then you got Hunt and Chubb. So would you like to even it off as far as how the running game versus the passing game, or would you like to emphasize one over the other?
No, I think they complement one another. You can't. That's the beauty of on paper that the way they have it set up now. They have if Beckham comes back and is Beckham again, then you've got receivers that can hurt you, and you've got 2 running backs that can hurt you, and hopefully they'll get the offensive line up to where it should be, and then you really will have a good offense.
All right, the Browns signed offensive players, but they give up a defensive player, Morgan-Burnett, who's been injured, was released. Morgan-Burnett had signed a 2-year, $7.5 million contract with the Browns in 2019, but his release will free up $3.375 million in cap space. Only started 8 games due to the injury. He missed 17 games over the last 3 seasons due to injury, so that's a big reason why he's not here anymore.
Yeah, and safety's an area of need for them too. So
got 2 safety positions open, 2 starting safeties.
I mean, based on what they did today, I think the message might be that they're going to go heavy on defense in the draft.
One would think.
Yeah.
Might want to go with that 10th pick, either trade up a little bit and maybe get a solid offensive lineman.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind them getting another offensive lineman. At one point, I thought they should just draft nothing but offensive linemen, like all 7 picks, just when you were watching them.
Well, that's similar to what I've wanted. I always wanted the best Buckeye available.
You'd like to see that, too. I mean, I've never – that's baffled me for the last, 15, 20 –
Cincinnati and Pittsburgh take all the Buckeyes?
It's almost like they purposely refuse to draft the team that's produced the most NFL players in all the country. and it's only like a 2-hour drive from.
Well, you
where
got Ward. You got this a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But
I
you
mean,
don't have. There's a lot of big names that they had opportunities to get and didn't do it. All right. So the Browns are signing all kinds of offensive players. Are they letting too many defensive players go, or do you think that's what you're talking about? The plan to draft more defensive players. Is that what you think it is?
Well, I think based on what they did today, that would lead you to believe that. I thought Kirksey was hurt a lot, even though he's supposed to be a good player.
Right. And
Schobert, up until this past year, I don't think really showed a whole lot, but he did show a lot in this past season. So that was an interesting decision. And, I mean, you just have to imagine they're going to have to really concentrate on the defense now.
Do you find it interesting that other teams, and the Browns are included in this, but other teams value other teams' players more than the team does? In other words, Schobert's going to get paid big. Mm-hmm. Much bigger than he would get paid here.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's true. And it's funny, in baseball you hear it the other way, like that certain teams value their players more than the teams that want to acquire them do. So, yeah, it could be. I mean, it probably depends on the position and the player plays and what the interested team needs at that position.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Jim Ingraham is with us. Northeast Factory Direct is with us also. They've been in business 20 years. Alex started it all in the basement and the garage in Lakewood, Ohio. And he found out that if you keep your overhead low, you can pass the savings on to your customer. That's what he's done for the last 20 years. He's going one better. He's got the 1-year best price guarantee. His prices can't be beat, and now it's guaranteed. If you, in the next year, find an item that is cheaper somewhere else, Alex is going to pay the difference immediately. It's the 1-year price guarantee from Northeast Factory Direct. East, west, and now to the south. 3 great locations, but before you do that, go to the website, northeastfactorydirect.com. We'll take a break. We'll come on back in a moment, and we'll talk about free agency and more. We'll talk about Andrew Berry, what he learned or didn't learn from Sashi Brown. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Celebrate Nature Stone's 30-year anniversary with a free Nature Stone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Nature Stone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say it's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
Got your Ohio Lottery pick 3, I see.
Yup. Those glasses are hip.
Hip? Most people think I'm a square. But what's wrong with that? A box bet can increase your chances of winning. And what is a box? A square. There are so many ways to play. There's coming out the wazoo. Oh, shucks. Look at me yammering on. Put a lid in it, Picky Ricky. Play the Ohio Lottery Pick 3 today.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Time for a How Come Quickie. Jim, how come it seems like the NBA would like to start next year's season before they finish this year's season?
I like that idea.
Can you do that?
Yeah, and then at the All-Star break, you could finish the previous year's season,
right,
and then resume the current season.
You could do that in the entire break of 4 or 5 days. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could then confuse everybody, and maybe the Cavs could sneak and steal a championship that way.
Could be. Do you think the leagues, let's say the NBA, they need some games just to bring some revenue in, or do you think they're just smart to cancel the thing now?
Well, I think they're all smart for canceling it now, and they all would like to have revenue, obviously, but it's makes no sense to be playing games at this stage. But I mean, the NBA's got fewer games to play than baseball.
Right.
Baseball is the one it seems like has the toughest thing here because they want to play as many of the 162 games as are scheduled, and that may be difficult to do with a late start.
And LeBron gets to say, this is my best chance to get another championship.
And he's right. So maybe they'll. I don't know. Yeah, that's. I think everything's up in the air. I don't think we can eliminate any scenario at this point.
No, in fact, some wild ones could come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
maybe all sports should just play a 10-game season.
That's it.
And that's it.
Well, why don't you make it like the decathlon? You get the Cavs have to play the Browns, each one in their own sport.
Their own sport. Now we're talking.
Remember Pat McCabe used to do radio at WHK? He had a great idea how to improve hockey.
Yeah.
2 pucks.
Not bad. You talk about action.
You have to make a decision. Should I go for that and
should I try
go back on defense? What do I do?
Prevent that goal. And what if, and at the end of the game, both teams pulled their goalies? The score would be like 25-19 or something.
That's the rule. With the last minute, you must remove your goalie.
You must remove your goalie, yeah. And there are no penalties called. You can do whatever you want.
No goalie and no penalty.
Yeah, it's just a free-for-all.
How about the rule that they have in the NHL that you have a spare goalie who's just some guy who eats dinner in the press room?
Yeah,
and then
wasn't there a team that the
just
Zamboni driver, he filled in for the... Yeah, I mean, why aren't we hearing more about that? He should be like nationally known. That
right,
person.
Or you play your games, and you in the third period you got to use a fireman who's or a policeman who's guarding the arena.
Yeah. I mean, you could just make up the rules as you go.
Yeah. All right. So 2016 and 2017, the Browns, of course, had Sashi Brown, and that's where we really started hearing about analytics. Would you say that's the melting pot of when it happened?
Yeah, the 4-letter word in Cleveland, I think.
Analytics is a 4-letter word?
For the Browns, applied to the Browns, it was.
Okay. Anyway, Sashi was here 16 and 17. Andrew Berry was part of that, although I'm sure Sashi made all the major decisions. But here's what happened in 2016 when Sashi was here. They signed Tuggle and Bailey. Then they signed Demario Davis and Raheem Moore. Then on March 24th, it was Robert Griffin III, RG3. Alex Mack was lost, as was Mitchell Schwartz, and Travis Benjamin, as well as Station Gibson. And, when you think about it, you see Mack and Schwartz, you wouldn't have to worry about your linemen if you kept those guys.
Well, I mean, compare who they signed and who they allowed to leave. The Tuggle signing was a red flag for me. I don't know about you, but... Yeah, I mean, Schwartz turned out to be a really good player. Same with Mack. Benjamin did some stuff, and I think Gibson did too. And the guys they signed in free agency are better left unspoken about.
Yeah, the unspoken ones. All right, then in 2017, Sashi was active again, and that's usually what happens in the Browns' case. Somebody comes in and analyzes whoever's out there, and they make switches immediately. March 9th, they did sign Kenny Britt and Zeitler and Treader. 27th, Matt McCants was signed, and then May 16th, Jason McCourty. Key losses that year, Joe Hayden, Terrell Pryor, and Robert Griffin. So they didn't lose much that way, although Hayden could still play.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah, I mean, he went right in and started for the Steelers, and the Browns drafted Gilbert. Remember him?
Yeah, how'd that go? All right, so Andrew Berry gets to take over, and he's, of course, has been with the Browns and Philadelphia. Do you think he's learned enough?
Well, we're going to find out. I'd say that, all kidding aside, I think today's business was pretty good. I mean, that's a good start for him.
Well, what Jim is talking about, the business, is Austin Hooper gets signed. He's a tight end. Jack-Conklin, an offensive lineman, and Case-Keenum becomes the backup quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, and if he can, we'll see if they can sustain it. I mean, let's not forget, last year the Browns seemed to win the offseason, and we saw how that turned out. So just, one good day at the free agent table doesn't mean
it's better than one bad day.
Yeah, or 2 bad years.
Well, that is true. 216-575-0403. Jim Ingraham is with us tomorrow night. Bud Shaw joins us from an undisclosed or disclosed location. The D-man, Dennis Maniloff, will be here on Wednesday. You could explore your interests and find a program that puts you on a path to a bright future. Tri-C offers more than 1,000 courses and over 140 career and technical programs. Go to tri-c.edu for more information about Tri-C. Mike Masetta standing by from Nature Stone. We'll get what he's thinking in a moment. More Sports and Les-Levine continues with Jim Ingraham exclusively on cleveland.com.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
This portion of More Sports and Les-Levine brought to you by Northeast Factory Direct. Let's take a look at this date in sports history. UMBC, that's Maryland-Baltimore County, defeats Virginia 74-54. They become the first the first 16 seed rather, to beat a 1 seed in NCAA tournament history. It's unbelievable.
It really is, even now looking back on it. That's one of the most astonishing results of any athletic contest.
16 beating a 1.
Yeah. And
the 1 was legit because they wound up winning the next year.
The whole thing the next year, yeah. I mean, I remember watching that game thinking, okay, now here comes Virginia's run.
Right.
And it never came.
Never
and
came.
Here it comes, and it never came. And
I mean,
that was tough.
You think about it, when Cleveland State beat Indiana, it was a 14 beating a 3,
Mm-hmm.
and but Indiana goes on to win the whole thing the following year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Let's check in with Mike Masetta from Nature Stone, see what he's thinking. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, Les. How are you doing?
Good. Jim Ingraham with us. Hope you and your family doing okay. As with everybody else in the audience, we hope everything goes well. Were you able to think about sports at all this weekend? Or the Browns made some moves today that I don't know if you heard about them, but at least on paper they look good. Austin Hooper, the tight end, Jack-Conklin, the lineman, and Case-Keenum, the backup quarterback. What are you thinking?
I love it. I love what they did, and yeah, my best to everybody out there. We're in the same boat everybody else is, and just kind of hunkering down, hoping to get through it quickly and move on. But sports is a great outlet. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of it right now, but we do have the Browns, and the NFL is pushing forward with free agency, which is a nice thing for us to sort of take our mind off of everything. And Hooper and Conklin and Keenum, for that matter, were all three positions of need for the Browns. I think that they did a great job bringing these guys in here. And anytime you got a quarterback who is struggling, you put a tight end in there and an offensive tackle, and that could change him dramaticay. When he gets that protection, he's got that safety valve.
No question about that. And, you brought up a good point. People say that with what's going on in the country and why talk about frivolous things like sports. I think you hit it on the head. we do need a release, and I think this helps a little bit.
Well, yeah, yes. You know, the media, and rightfully so, is talking about this virus and what's going on, and it can be scary, and you know, all that stuff. But we are going to get through it, and we need to understand that. And having things like sports to take our mind off of it is not a bad thing. Yeah. It's a good thing, and it keeps us grounded. It keeps us to know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
We've been talking football for the most part tonight, and Jim Ingraham, of course, one of the great baseball writers around. Jim, the interruption doesn't give us any idea if and when the season's going to start, but we're just starting to get a little optimistic at this point on the Indians?
To tell you the truth, I don't know what to think of the Indians. I mean, this thing could go. I could see the White Sox finishing ahead of them, for example, and I could see the Indians finishing ahead of the Twins. It's kind of hard to get a handle on what could happen. I mean, the Lindor thing's hanging over everything. You know, the pitchers keep getting hurt, but you know, maybe they'll all be healthy by the time they're ready to play again. And the outfield, you know, we're not, until we see run production coming from out there, we don't really know if it'll happen or not. So there's a lot more question marks this year than they've had in
Mike,
previous.
are you thinking about the same thing that Jim's talking about?
Well, certainly you don't like the injuries to the pitching staff because that's their bread and butter, and especially in my opinion, that Class A, you know, assuming that he was going to be the real deal to be that bridge to hand, and so the starters look like they're coming along and they'll be fine. Quite frankly, the time off or the delay to the start of the season is not necessarily a bad thing for the Indians. It actually gets them to a point where they can get healthy, and a healthy Indians team is one of the better teams in baseball, in my opinion. Also, it eliminates all of those March and early April games where there's still snowfall.
Yeah.
And so when you go out to the games in May, you know, it's usually pretty nice, and that's usually when the bats warm up. So,
right.
You know, maybe this will benefit the Indians.
Jim, what is a realistic number that you could, if you had to just adapt to whatever the time frame is, what do you think to establish a championship season, which they call it, so playing a season is a championship season. Well, how many games do you think should be in a minimum? Are we talking 100 games, 81 games? What do you think?
Well,
I mean, at what point should you just say, no matter what happens, we're done?
Well, I mean, I don't think if you pick a number and it's not feasible to play that many games, you should just say, well, all right, we won't play at all. But like 100 is probably a pretty good number, because I mean, you want to play enough games in baseball because of the nature of the game where, you know, your pitching staff has enough time to establish whether it's good or bad, and your hitters, and it's kind of an extended season because they play so many games that you want to play enough games to allow each team to show, you know, if they're a legitimate threat to be in the postseason or if they're not, and that can't be done in, like, let's say, like 50 games or 60 games.
And a lot of people forget the Indians' great team of '95. 18 games were lopped off that, and the Indians had a record of 100 wins and 44 losses in that one. Mike, are you all in favor of seeing whatever the amount of games there are, or do you think there should be enough to establish a championship season?
Well, I agree with Jim. I think that there should be some amount of games that they end up playing. They could throw some double headers in there, depending upon when the start of the season happens, to get up to a certain amount. What that number is, I don't know. 100 games sounds pretty reasonable. But a lot of these players, they have certain clauses in their contract where if they reach certain milestones during the course of the season, they get additional money. And if they aren't playing the right amount of games, they can't reach those escalators. And that's where I think you might have a little bit of an issue with the players and the Major League Baseball kind of going at it a little bit. They need to play a certain amount of games in order to hit these escalators and get that $1 million bonus or whatever it is. As fans, we don't think about that stuff, and we shouldn't, because, you know, we're fans. We're not players. But to them, you know, that's their livelihood, and that's what they're playing for in a lot of circumstances. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. That's all I'm going to say.
Jim, if the season doesn't play at all, They just cancel it somewhere along the line. Just for example, in Francisco-Lindor's case, does he get credited with a year in, so he'd still only have one more year for next year? Or there's got to be some rules involved.
Yeah, and I don't think that they have a handle on that. I don't think they want to start thinking about that. I mean, there's so many variables in this whole thing that I don't. And if you don't play a full season, however many games that is, I would imagine that would not count as a year's service time in the big leagues, which is what we're talking about when a player's closing in on free agency. But it's the same for everyone, so maybe they would go with that. I think it's a good question, but an unanswerable one right now. Yeah. There's just so much vagary and unknown things about the whole season.
All right, so Mike, what are you doing at home to kill some time here with your kids?
We're watching a lot of movies last week. We got rid of the cable, and we brought in one of those online or what do you call those streaming services? Yep. And we're just we're hunkering down. It's nice because my wife and I are getting to cook together, and the kids don't have sports, and so they're home, and we don't have to be on the road constantly. So this is while I don't like the circumstance that it's under, it's nice because we get some family time together. And I came home a little early today. We whipped up some dinner, and the kids played outside a little bit and came in. It kind of reminds me of when I was a kid, quite frankly. And you didn't have all this stuff going on at 6, 7 o'clock at night every day.
All right, you got to get your son to suffer like we did. Why don't you take some of the games from the 80s of the Browns, like the fumble, the drive, a couple games like that, just so he can suffer like we did.
He watches all that stuff on YouTube. He watches the old games on YouTube, but he doesn't watch any of the bad ones. So he doesn't know about the suffering.
All right. Hey, Mike, thanks so much for joining us, and stay safe out there.
Hey, you got it, guys. Have a good one.
Wow, it's Nature Stone. Thanks, Mike. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. Northeast Factory Direct, East, West, and South. That's the 3 locations, as well as the website, as you see at the bottom, northeastfactory.com. They've got name brand furniture like Flex Steel and England, Klausner, and much more. Also a couple of great lines with great style selection and many fabric options. And they have Amish furniture right here in Ohio, and you can get the high quality of that, and it costs so much less at Northeast Factory Direct. In fact, 50, 60, and 70% off the prices you'll pay at some of the big box stores. We're going to take a break. Sokolowski's University, and they'd like to remind you, of course, you got the ban on restaurants and all, but they do have, you can take any item on the menu to go, so stop in for lunch 11 to 3, order it, take it back to the office, or I suppose you can sit out in the parking lot and have it. Sokolowski's University Inn. We'll take a break. We'll come on back in a moment. We'll take a look at our Facebook question of the day, see how you responded to that. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature Stone and never replace your basement flooring again. Your concrete is uneven, damp, and not healthy. Carpet and tile don't last, breed mold and mildew, and give worthless warranties. Nature Stone permanently corrects uneven concrete and is not affected by dampness or moisture. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of March. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Let's take a look at this date in Les-Levine history, Jim. Early in Les's career, he got a job at radio for $375. In those days, a weekly check for $375 would pay for rent and a car. Unfortunately, on payday, he found out it was $375 an hour. Just missed.
Bait and switch, huh? When they saw you coming.
Yeah, they saw me coming. No question about that. We have a Facebook question of the day. What sport will you miss the most during the shutdown? Glenn Berger says baseball. The start of every baseball season brings much anticipation. Baseball is played almost every day, resulting in constant dialogue about the game. I miss baseball already. Kevin Piles, as a big fan of all major sports, I'm missing all sports immensely, but I think I'll miss MLB the most. You can't beat watching world-class action with athletes participating in America's pastime on a gorgeous summer day. Andy Mees, well, everybody loves baseball all of a sudden. There's nothing like going to Progressive Field while being in the great outdoors in beautiful weather. I go to as many Tribe games as I can during my free time. Rick May says, opening day for the Tribe. I'll be curious to see how the NFL draft will be affected by our current situation. Dan Gillespie, without a doubt, it's baseball. Dennis Davis, first baseball, second baseball, third baseball. Michael Burke says, I don't know, I'm tuning in for more How Come Quickies and Les-Levine right now. It's a major sporting event of the year, How Come Quickies. You think they're telling the truth or lying? Because if it's unanimous...
Yeah. I think that most of them are probably telling the truth. I think the time of year we're asking that, when baseball was on the verge of starting, and that means summer's just around the corner,
right.
and there's a lot of great things about baseball. I think that's part of it. But that was surprising but encouraging, I thought, to see.
The people who voted for football, they couldn't find our address.
Oh, okay.
Not true. I was surprised by that. 216-575-0403 is the number to call. We have a voicemail of Truth and Reason. You can call us up and leave us a message if you can't reach us during the show, which runs from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And let's see what Ron had to say on the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Les. This is Ron Byer. Hey, Les, I always hope to try to find a positive out of every situation that's happening. So this virus has had to open the eyes of both young and old, that there are more important things in life than our everyday individual lives, and that we all have to change and adjust in a way. Sports-wise, young athletes might be devastated that they'll miss out on individual or team championships, but they'll prevail and be stronger. And Cleveland sports-wise, for a while, we won't have to keep watching and see how much we still need on the Cavs to be a contender. And the Indians, maybe they'll start when it's warmer outside, and hopefully they'll start out hot.
Okay. Hopefully they will. Hopefully we'll get some kind of a season in. Well, we say it all the time that things happen and they remind you that there are more important things than sports, but sometimes you do need that thing to hang on to.
Yeah, and even when something doesn't happen, it's just the daily grind of your life and going to work and sleeping, going to work, and sports is the little sidelight that you can forget about the stuff you want to forget about and go watch a football game, a baseball game, or a basketball game, and just kind of get away from everything and enjoy the games.
I got an idea for a column for you.
Okay.
Around the water cooler, if you don't talk sports, what do you talk?
Water coolers. Do they ever talk about water coolers?
Kramer from Seinfeld has a water cooler about water coolers.
Why isn't this water cooler working?
It's
At
warm.
the water cooler.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, Ron used the voicemail of Truth and Reason. You can do that too. As I said, we do the show live from 6 until 7 p.m. Eastern Time, but any other time of the day, 23 hours a day, you can call us, leave us a message at the voicemail of Truth and Reason, 216-200-6650. 216-200-6650. Jim Ingraham and I continue on. We've been talking mostly NFL football and the Browns. They made some big moves, if you didn't hear it. Austin Hooper, a 4-year tight end from Atlanta, comes to the Browns. Jack-Conklin, from Tennessee comes to the Browns, the offensive lineman, and Case-Keenum will be your backup. And my guess is when they negotiated with him, they said, but Baker Mayfield's really our quarterback.
Well, I thought, yeah, I don't think that he needed to be reminded about that, at least to start the season, right?
Right. Yeah, but you got a guy who's done it before if you do need to go to him.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We'll come on back in a moment. More Sports and Les-Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Your concrete is cracked, uneven, and not safe. Paints and poly coatings don't last, are slippery, and give worthless warranties. Nature Stone permanently corrects cracked, uneven concrete, eliminates slipping hazards, and is easy to clean. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of March. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Tomorrow night, Bud Shaw will join us from WKYC.com. You see us Monday through Friday from 6 until 7 p.m. Friday night is the weekend winners with Dave Bacon. And again, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can archive us all day and all night long if you'd like to do that. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. By the way, we haven't talked about this, but if you have an idea, you want to nominate a question of the day, go ahead and do that on our question of the day question. What?
Would you repeat that, please?
I can't. I'm trying to read these How Come Quickies that come in and do 2 or 3 things at the same time. I'm not even capable of doing one thing at the same time. Big Ed writes, Les, sorry I haven't sent in any How Come Quickies in the past couple of days. I've been at the hospital for the birth of our first grandchild. It took some time, but our granddaughter finally arrived. Happy to say she's healthy and we're excited. Oh, big deal, Ed. Well, I need quickies. Congratulations to you. It's great. That is great. Cleveland Bill. Wow, this is a terrific start to free agency for the Browns. Hooper and Conklin already will give Mayfield an extra half second to pass. And we finally have a backup worthy at quarterback in Keenum. Barry and Stefanski are rocking. Now let's get that reliable left tackle and trade Beckham.
Well, an extra half second means he'll have a half second, right?
As opposed to an extra one?
As opposed to last year, yeah.
Yeah, an extra one offers you the opportunity to actually have one. Cleveland Bill writes this, how come whenever I get ahead of myself, I always fall behind? That wasn't the good one.
Teaser.
Brad Harbison, I believe he's a first-time quickier. How come a meteorologist is an expert in weather, but a weatherologist is not an expert in meteors?
Yeah, I don't even think we need experts in meteors, do we?
I love people who have jobs in the media, and I'm going to assume that being a weatherman on TV makes you a media member. But they actually think we want a science class when we only want to know if it's going to rain or snow the next day.
Yeah, well, they're justifying their position, I guess.
Put more sports on. Mr. Gullible, how come women don't want to get engaged on St. Patrick's Day so they don't get a sham rock?
Jeez.
How come when my wife called me immature, I told her to get out of my tree fort? Mr. Gullible's been in a slump. He's usually had 1 out of 2 good ones. That's 2 for 2.
Yeah, he's back.
He's back. John Patrick is back, too. He couldn't write for a week or 2 because he had a knee replaced.
He writes with his knee?
I guess. I knew a woman who had water on the knee.
Yeah.
She took a towel and wiped it off.
You going to be here all week?
I will be here all week. John Patrick says, how come ever since they canceled all sports, I discovered there's a woman living in my house? Apparently she's my wife. She seems pretty nice.
There's your gold medal.
That's the winner.
Yeah.
I mean, Mr. Gullible was good, but
Yeah.
that's
that
a
was
classic.
a grand slam.
All right. We have a couple of minutes to work with here. What do you want to talk about?
Why we have a couple of minutes to work with here.
Because we didn't know baseball, no basketball.
Yeah, that's why I said less sports and more Levine. This is the more Levine part of the show.
This is the more Levine portion of more sports and less Levine.
Well, we can. Who do you like in the Masters?
I'll wait till August or September to come up with that.
Yeah.
Think about that from a sports standpoint. All the things that are, the NBA playoffs. I mean everything. I mean
and it would be. It's
the
not
Masters.
just that they're not playing, but nobody even knows when they're going to play.
Right.
It's the combination of those two things, and and it comes at a time when it does seem like the beginning of the sporting year is when spring training is getting to a close, because that, then you start baseball and you finish basketball and then football starts and then basketball. So it's right at the beginning sort of of the sports year, and now we're not having that.
Let's see. In '91, when the Indians played the All-Star game in Cleveland after the strike, 1981.
Yeah. Yes.
So they divided that into two half seasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Indians still couldn't make the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. There were 2 extra playoff berths, and they weren't even close, I don't think. But they did have the All-Star game.
They had the All-Star game that year.
Gary Carter
hit two, right?
2 home runs. Yeah. Yeah. That was the first game. I mean, they came back from the strike and played the All-Star game, which
at a high level.
Yeah.
Except if I recall,
but it was a big crowd too.
There was a big crowd, but I think there were 3 routine ground balls that were botched in that game.
Well,
and then the players blamed it on the bad infield.
Yeah, or the strike.
Or the strike.
Yeah.
All right. So we mentioned '95 also. Well, '94 was canceled. '95 started late. Played 144 games.
Remember, they started with the replacement players, which was a total circus. I mean, that came that close to actually happening. The season was going to open the next day with replacement players when they finally settled.
Which manager would not refuse to manage the? Was it Earl Weaver, maybe?
I just remember the trade the Indians made with the Reds. They gave the Reds 5 players and got no one back. And Davey Johnson, the manager of the Reds, said the Indians got the better of the deal.
Did any of them play?
No, they. Who I think was a replacement player that spring? I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Mike Sarbaugh.
He was. Mike Sarbaugh, the third base coach for the Indians.
Yeah, he was one of them.
And he had always heard that guys who crossed the picket line would not be accepted by major league players, but he was.
Yeah, he was, and some of them kind of. What happened was the ones that ended up playing in the big leagues. But crossed the picket lines to play with the replacement players. They never, even though they played in the big leagues, they were never members of the Players Association.
Right, so they never got vested in the union.
Pep Harris, remember the pitcher Pep Harris for the Indians?
I don't.
I think he was one of those guys. But
how about the replacement players for the Browns? They had guys for years going around saying how they played for the Browns, and they really didn't.
How about the year they had the replacement umpires? I think that was '95. Remember in Detroit when Dennis Martinez was pitching and he walked down to home plate with the baseball and put it over the plate
to show him where the plate was.
Yeah, and the umpire wouldn't throw him out. It was like it was like anarchy on the field.
There's a story that Hal Lebovitz believed and told me. Now that they have the computer and you can check on these things, I'm not sure it's necessarily true, but Jimmy Pearsall was traded to the Indians in '50. They got him in '59, which, by the way, was a crazy team when you think about it. You had Daddy Wags, you had Billy Martin.
They were all on the '59 team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Vic Power, Woody Held.
Minnie Minoso on that team?
Who's that?
Minnie Minoso.
Minnie Minoso was on that team. That was a fun team. Everyone was more nutty than the next one. But when Pearsall got traded from Boston to Cleveland, and in those days they used to play doubleheaders on Sunday.
Right.
And Jimmy Pearsall had his family was still back in Boston after he got traded here. And Hal swore that this was true. He said that Pearsall would get himself thrown out in the second inning of the second game of the doubleheader because he had a standing reservation on an airline on a flight back to Boston for the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So the manager, it took him 4 weeks to figure this out. He goes up to the umpire when they're exchanging the lineup card, and he said, in the second inning of the second game, Pearsall is going to try to get himself thrown out. Under no circumstances should you throw him out. So here we go in the second game, second inning. Pearsall's in the on-deck circle, and there was a pitch that was called a strike. Not on him, but the guy in front of him. Yeah. Pearsall started arguing with the umpire about it. And they're arguing. Now they're going toe-to-toe, jaw-to-jaw, and the guy's not going to throw him out. And the manager says, I got to save my player. I don't want him to punch the guy or whatever. Yeah. So he runs out to save his player, Jimmy Pearsall. The umpire threw him out of the game. Now, whether that's true or not, it's a great story.
Yeah, and it's the kind of story that would involve Jimmy Pearsall.
Right.
It sounds like something he would do.
For those who don't know Jimmy Pearsall, go rent Fear Strikes Out or Google him, and they'll show you him running backwards on his 100th home run.
His 100th, he ran backwards around the bases. Like, you don't see that much anymore.
Fear Strikes Out. Did you see that?
You know what? I saw that, and Jimmy Pearsall was actually in the theater introducing it.
Really?
Yeah. He came out to where we saw it.
Well, Anthony Perkins played Jimmy Pearsall, and in all of the sports movies, in the history of sports movies, he was the least athletic of any player ever, and there's no way you could imagine him being a great center fielder like Jimmy Pearsall was.
Yeah, I wondered why they picked him for that. Like,
he didn't look like him?
Maybe, he didn't look like me. And there's nothing that devalues a sports movie more than a guy that is clearly not an athlete and can't even fake it, which was the case there.
Didn't they, on the Lou Gehrig story, didn't they reverse? Didn't they have him batting righty?
Yeah.
They flipped the negative, so he batted righty and it came out lefty?
Yeah, right.
All right, that'll do it for us. We did what we had to do.
It's all you can ask.
Yep, that'll do it for us. I'll see you tomorrow night with Bud Shaw. Thanks to Jim Ingraham. We'll see you then. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.